Thank you, everyone. I know before the break I said we would go straight to FENSA, but I understand there are still some informal consultations among member states occurring which could allow us a smoother passage through the FENSA item. To allow those consultations to continue, I propose now that we will move to item 34, report on meetings of expert committees and study groups, including expert advisory panels and committees and their membership. The relevant reports of the Director-General are contained in two documents, EB 158/55, Report on Meetings of Expert Committees and Study Groups, and EB 158/55, Add 1, Expert Advisory Panels and Committees and their membership. The Board is invited to note the reports and consider the guiding questions in paragraph 25 of EB 158/55. May I remind Board members that in accordance with Regulation 4.23 of the Regulations for Expert Advisory Panels and Committees, the role of the Board is to consider the report submitted by the Director-General, which contains his observations on the implications of the expert committee reports and his recommendations on the follow-up action to be taken. In compliance with Regulation 2.2 of the same regulations, document EB 158/55 Add 1 informs the Board of the establishment or disestablishment of expert advisory panels and their membership and lists the meetings of expert committees convened during the year. With respect to the reports of advisory bodies, first, I would like to draw the attention of the 25th meeting report of the Expert Committee on the Selection and Use of Essential Medicines, held in Geneva from 5 to 9 May 2025. The recommendations, public health significance and implications for WHO appear in paragraphs 1 through 13 of document EB 158/55. The full report appears in the WHO Technical Report Series number 1064. Next, I would like to draw the Board's attention to the 100th meeting report of the joint FAO-WHO Expert Committee on Food Additives, held in Rome from 10 to the 19th of June 2025. The recommendations, public health significance and implications for WHO appear in paragraphs 14 through 24 of document EB 158/55. The full report appears in the WHO Technical Report Series number 1058/2025. The floor is now open for discussion. I first call on members of the Executive Board who wish to take the floor on this item. I give the floor to Bulgaria.
Chair, I have the honor to speak on behalf of the following countries: Albania, Armenia, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Bulgaria, Chile, Colombia, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Georgia, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Monaco, Montenegro, Netherlands, New Zealand, North Macedonia, Poland, Portugal, Republic of Moldova, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Ukraine. We welcome the outcome of the mandated triennial review of non-state actors in official relations. FENSA is a framework that was carefully negotiated by member states over a long period. We trust
Excuse
that...
me? We are on agenda item 34, report on meetings of expert committees and study groups.
Oh, sorry, it's not FENSA?
No, not
okay,
yet.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
That really shows I was not paying attention, that we didn't pick that up. Apologies, I did announce the change of items, but I do recognise it is a fast-moving agenda. As I said before, there are some informal consultations occurring at the moment to try and help us speed the FENSA process. We're just giving them a little more time, which is why we're doing item 34. I now give the floor to Ukraine, followed by Japan.
Dear Chair, dear colleagues, Ukraine recognizes the importance of WHO essential medicines list as it helps shape what countries fund and what people expect. That's why EML must remain a tool for equity and practical implementation. In that spirit, we have concern focused on affordability and real-world feasibility. First, the meaning essential is becoming unclear. When the list tries to be both a baseline for universal coverage and the signal of the cutting edge, it stops being a clear compass for priority setting. Second, we must be honest about affordability. Recent changes, including ultra-high cost medicines, especially in oncology and rare disease, often costing tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars per patient per year. For many countries, this is simply unaffordable. Moreover, some manufacturers of medicines included in the list have not been able to ensure sustained production and reliable supply in recent years. Third, the EML label is not neutral. It creates expectation and purchase pressure, especially in developing countries, without a credible access pathway. It can divert limited funds from higher impact intervention and become a quasi-reimbursement signal without the tools to make it affordable. First, affordability and access are applied inconsistently. Sometimes inclusion is defended as a catalyst that may bring prices down later, but often it comes without a clear roadmap to competition, voluntary licensing, technology transfer, or other market-shaping action. We are not asking to lower standards. We are asking for a realistic pathway to meet them. For high-cost products, EML inclusion should be conditional on credible time-bound access plan for developing countries, such as voluntary licensing, technology transfer, or other mechanisms to enable competition. We also propose explicit affordability and budget impact requirements, consistent decision rules, and negotiation benchmarks for countries. We need an EML that is ambitious and implementable. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Japan, followed by Cabo Verde.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to appreciate the members of the expert committees and working groups for their dedication and commitment that underpins WHO's core mandate. Japan would like to highlight two activities that we believe to be particularly relevant to WHO's key normative function. First, the WHO model list of essential medicines is a critically important normative instrument that serves as the foundation for countries when considering the introduction of essential medicines in the context of universal health coverage. We believe that the development and maintenance of this list is a core function that only WHO can perform. At the same time, under the current challenging circumstances, it is neither realistic nor feasible for WHO to provide comprehensive implementation support in every member state. In this regard, we would like to reiterate the importance of achieving UHC through the strengthening health financing, including domestic resource mobilization, while encouraging WHO to further deepen collaboration with relevant partners. Second, with regard to the risk assessment of food additives and related substances, it is essential that the necessary information be compiled and assessed in a scientifically neutral and objective manner. We consider this to be one of the key normative functions as well. In the context of the challenging environment, however, surrounding global health, we would encourage WHO to take a broader perspective by reviewing resource allocation across the organization, ensuring greater transparency in this process, and further improve the efficiency, including with external partners such as collaborating centers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Japan. I now see there are no other Executive Board members seeking the floor on this item. Therefore, I open up to member states who are not members of the Executive Board. The floor is open. I see no calls for the floor. I will just double check that there is no request for the floor from UN bodies, observers or IGOs. There are none. If there are no more requests, I shall ask if the Secretariat has any response to questions or observations. Sure. Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished delegates, I would like to thank you for your thoughtful review of the report, and also thank all the experts who contributed to the expert advisory panels and committee. The comment of Ukraine is well noted, that we need to look at how we can ensure equity and make sure that the essential list of medicine has this in sight. And the comment of Japan is also well noted with the proposal to use more collaborating centers to help WHO to carry out its normative and technical tasks. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I see no further requests for the floor, may I take it that the board wishes to take note of the reports? I see no objection. The reports are noted. Thank you. That concludes the board's consideration of item 34. We will now move to item 28.6, engagement with non-state actors. The relevant reports include the report on the implementation of the framework of engagement with non-state actors contained in document EB 158/42 and the report on non-state actors in official relations with WHO contained in document EB 158/43. With a draft decision in document EB 158/43 add 1 and the financial and administrative implications of that decision contained in document EB 158/43 add 2. As this matter was discussed by the PBAC, I shall draw your attention to the report of the committee contained in document EB 158/4, paragraphs 58 to 61. I would like to invite the Secretariat to read out the recommendations of the PBAC. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. With respect to the item on engagement with non-state actors, the committee held one discussion covering the 2 bullets on the report on the implementation of the framework of engagement with non-state actors and non-state actors in official relations with WHO. The committee, acknowledging the variance of views expressed by committee members, some of which called for informal consultations ahead of discussions at the 158th session of the Executive Board, recommended that the Executive Board note the reports contained in documents EB 158/42 and EB 158/43 and consider the draft decision contained in document EB 158/43 add 1. Back to you.
Thank you. The floor is now open for discussion. I'll start with EB members as usual. I note that when we get to non-EB members, we will have some constituency statements and then at the end statements from non-state actors. I give the floor to Norway, followed by Bulgaria.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for giving me the floor. I know it was a lot of discussion about this item on the consultation Monday evening, and it's hard to reach consensus. And I know that you all know that I am really working for consensus, and Norway is always working for consensus. So if you allow me, Chair, I have some suggestions adding on the draft decision in an attempt to try to reach consensus. So,
just before we do that, I'm prepared to do that. Normally we would have some discussion about these reports, but obviously it has been through PBAC, so I think we're effectively moving through with the agreement of the committee. Happy to have you suggest this so other delegations have that in their mind as they go to their interventions. And then I'll just take a stock of where we're up to. We might actually move to note the reports, then formally work on the decisions, because I think that's where we're actually at in this conversation. I mean, I'm happy to hear pushback from the Executive Board, but I think that is actually, in practice, what we need to do, find a way to land the decisions. So I'm happy to take this intervention, and then I'll see if other members want to take on the general discussion. So Norway, you have the floor.
thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. So I have some extra text after the first sentence. So the start of the decision will be like this. The Executive Board, having considered the report on engagement with non-state actors in official relations with WHO, and taking note of the reservation expressed by some EB member, acknowledging that member states have full sovereign rights under which NSAs operate within their national territories, and with full consideration and respect to every member state's national context. And then the rest. I can ask the Secretariat to put it up on screen afterwards, but then I will stop. Thank you for your patience with me. Thank you.
I am seeing a few delegations, and I know delegations that have been heavily involved in the discussions nodding at that, and I think that may facilitate things. So I will take the intervention by the delegation from Bulgaria, but in the meantime, if the Secretariat was able to put that as a suggested text, what I then will propose after Bulgaria, I will come to Egypt, and then I'll see which other members want to take the floor. I just feel in practice we're moving to the decision phase, so I just might formally get through noting the reports. But I hand the floor to Bulgaria, I suspect making a statement on behalf of a number of countries.
Second try, I think now on the correct agenda item. Chair, I have the honor to speak on behalf of the following countries: Albania, Armenia, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Bulgaria, Chile, Colombia, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Georgia, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Monaco, Montenegro, Netherlands, New Zealand, North Macedonia, Panama, Poland, Portugal, Republic of Moldova, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Ukraine. We welcome the outcome of the mandated triennial review of non-state actors in official relations. FANCI is a framework that was carefully negotiated by member states over a long period. We trust that the due diligence conducted by the Secretariat is fully aligned with the principles established by member states. We want to underline that all non-state entities listed in Annex 2 of document EB 158/43 already have ongoing relations with the WHO and established status in other United Nations bodies. Earlier this week, the Secretariat held an ad hoc informal consultation at the request of some PBAC members. We noted general agreement on the legitimacy of FANCI and its criteria. We did not note any concerns regarding the due diligence conducted by the Secretariat with regard to the review process according to FANCI criteria. During the briefing, the Secretariat reminded that FANCI guarantees full transparency on collaboration between WHO and non-state actors, that all collaboration plans are accessible online, and that member states' explicit approval is required for any activity at national level. We trust that the Secretariat carefully considers each application in line with the criteria and procedures as established in FANCI, and invite all board members to agree that non-state actors listed in Annex 2 are renewed in official relations with WHO. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Egypt.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I have the honor to speak on behalf of the 57 member states of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, including the Amro region. Mr. Chair, yesterday afternoon we received from the Secretariat the program of work regarding the 5 non-state actors about which we have expressed grave concerns regarding their advocacy and principles, and this late submission did not allow us sufficient time to adequately review and consult with our capitals and to conduct the necessary internal coordination among our member states on matters of such significant importance. And we wish to emphasize that we consider the engagement with these 5 non-state actors to be contradictory to Article 5E and 5F of the Framework of Engagement with Non-State Actors, which establishes overarching guiding principle stipulating that any WHO engagement with non-state actors must, first, ensure that WHO is not influenced, particularly in processes setting and applying policies, norms, and standards. Second, not to compromise WHO's integrity, independence, and credibility. These principles, Mr. Chairman, are not merely procedural requirements. They are very fundamental safeguards that protects the organization mandate and ensure that WHO remains focused on its constitutional objective of attaining the highest possible level of health for all people. The OIC 57, including the EMRO region, has carefully considered several options in this regard. This includes requesting the deferral of the agenda item to the World Health Assembly to allow for further discussion, comprehensive review, and broader member state consultation, or alternatively deferring it to the upcoming executive board for the same reason. However, after thorough deliberation and consultation among our member states and taking a holistic approach on this issue, and with the overarching objective of demonstrating support and confidence to the WHO leadership, particularly during these critical and challenging times that WHO faces, and recognizing the importance of not blocking the renewal of relations with the remaining 65 non-state actors whose work contributes meaningfully to the global health, we have decided to move forward. Mr. Chairman, we wish to acknowledge and express our sincere appreciation to the Secretary General of the Norwegian Ministry of Health, Madam Minister Catherine Marie Loftus, who played a constructive role by reaching out to us and working diligently to accommodate our legitimate concerns in the text of the decision point document. In this spirit of cooperation with a view to moving this process forward, we therefore request that first our reservation, as you explicitly, regarding the renewal of relation with the aforementioned 5 non-state actors to be officially and explicitly recorded in the report of this session. Second, a strong message of confidence and trust to be conveyed to the WHO leadership that all concerns we expressed during Tuesday informal consultation session, as well as the detailed elements and specific recommendations that we will be providing shortly in an official written communication to the Secretariat, will be carefully and thoroughly considered by the Secretariat in any future cooperation, collaboration, or engagement with these 5 non-state actors, and indeed with all non-state actors with whom WHO maintain official relations. Third and last, our reservation on behalf of the IOC 57, including the EMRO region, be formally recorded in the decision point document for this agenda item. With these assurances clearly understood and recorded, and with the expectation that our concern will be given due consideration in full future engagements, we consider, again, a very minor modification, if you would like to put the text on the screen, of if not, the last statement that measures, that said that the end of the text you mentioned, Your Excellency, every member state's context, we need just to add principle and values. That's it. I thank you very much again, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I just want to indicate we're really now getting to the part of the discussion where we are devoting the decision text. My preference would be, and first of all, I appreciate the constructive engagement and the fact that we are trying to find a way through this, which is good. What I would like to do is, I'd like to formally move towards that decision discussion, but I notice Nepal has asked for the call. I would take Nepal's intervention and then check whether any other executive board members, on the understanding my preference here is to move to note the reports, which is the next phase, and then to formally consider the draft decision, and then we could be looking at this revised text on screen where the EB would be confronted with that question about whether they want to accept that draft text. It's possible that may take a little bit of time, so I'd like to get there sooner rather than later, but I'll go to Nepal first. I will open up to non-executive board members on the broader question, but I am foreshadowing, I think the guts of this item is to get to the negotiation of the decision. I'd like to get there as soon as possible. I give the floor to Nepal.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, framework for the engagement of non-state actors was adopted in 2016 after a long and inclusive member state-led process. This provides the terms by which the WHO Secretariat can engage with non-state actors, including those in official relations. Naturally, the relevance of these non-state actors will be different for different member states. Therefore, we stress that it is up to the sovereign member states to decide with whom they want to engage and with whom they don't want such engagements. We took note of this report on implementation of FENSA. We also look forward to the adoption of the draft decision on non-state actors in official relations with WHO that have met their criteria set out in FENSA. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other EB member who would like to take the floor? thank you for your, well, I'm lost for words. Thank you for your cooperation on the pathway forward. It's a good thing we're not going to go another 2 days. I now give the opportunity, noting that I would like to actually ideally close this part of the agenda and move to the decision point, but I give the floor to the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Russian Federation joins the statement of Egypt. The WHO work with dubious organizations on reproductive health has already led to the loss of a number of members of the organization. The proposal to renew the work undermines the reputation of the organization and runs counter to Article 5 of FENSA. Thank you.
I don't see any other member states seeking the call. Just before I move to ask the Secretariat whether they want to respond to any of those things, including it raised by Egypt, and then I will seek to note the reports and move to the decision. We do have a constituency statement by non-state actors. So I now turn to the Save the Children Fund.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I'm reading this statement on behalf of Global Health Council, the Save the Children Fund, Center for Reproductive Rights, Worldwide Hospice Palliative Care Alliance, ICCBBA, International Association for Hospice and Palliative Care, International Alliance of Patients Organizations, World Federation for Ultrasound in Medicine and Biology, World Federation of Hemophilia, World Vision International, Women Deliver, International Association for Dental Research, International Planned Parenthood Federation, Association Africaine des Centrales d'achat des Médicaments Essentiels, International Federation of Surgical Colleges and Societies, Population Council, Help Age International, Multiple Sclerosis International Federation, Medicus Mundi International, Network Health for All, World Organization of Family Doctors, the International Lactation Consultant Association, International Agency for Prevention of Blindness, International Federation of Medical Students Associations, International Pharmaceutical Students Federation, Public Services International, Union for International Cancer Control, Sight Savers, the Royal Commonwealth Society for the Blind, World Association for Sexual Health, Knowledge Ecology International, and the NCD Alliance. We appreciate WHO's effort to ensure that the framework of engagement with non-state actors, FENSA, is fully implemented at all levels of the organization. Joint and individual statements by non-state actors should remain an integral part of WHO's official proceedings so that NSA perspectives are heard and meaningfully considered throughout deliberations. NSAs, particularly civil society and patient organizations, are on the front lines of public health. Many include individuals with lived experience of ongoing and emergent health challenges, while others provide essential health and care services in communities. They also contribute to research and evidence generation that helps identify what works for whom and how to scale it effectively. These actors have a deep understanding of the needs of populations, especially those who are poorest, most marginalized, and most at risk. Without their meaningful participation, WHO cannot fully deliver on its mandate to build a healthier and safer world for all. We are deeply concerned by the pushback against the admission of or renewal of civil society organizations duly vetted by the WHO Secretariat into official relations with WHO. Moving forward, we urge for adherence to the objective criteria for evaluating non-state actor applications and to respect the Secretariat's independent role and recommendations in this process. At a time of significant financial constraints facing WHO and the broader global health sector, we encourage WHO and member states to strengthen collaboration with civil society to work more efficiently and effectively toward our shared global health goals. Thank you very much, dear Chair.
Thank you very much. Before I continue the other non-state actors, I see that Spain has now sought to take the floor. I give you the floor, Spain.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't thinking of taking the floor until the decision, but I would like to note that we cannot accept for the WHO to work with organizations that have a dubious reputation. We believe it is vital to have dialogue with civil society organizations. Participation with these enriches dialogue, ensures a better implementation of measures, and they cannot just be the object of health policy, but they need to be heard, listened to, and part of advice to global health measures. And we have evidence of the added value by civil society. A clear example is the role in combating HIV/AIDS, but also the vital role in promoting sexual and reproductive rights and championing sexual rights for women. And this was after arduous deliberations, this framework, and this must continue to be implemented by the organization, including to ensure pluralism in the representation of CSOs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will now call the next non-state actor, Médecins Sans Frontières International. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Médecins Sans Frontières takes note of the report of the Director General on the engagement with non-state actors. We commend the World Health Organization for its important role in developing international standards and for facilitating the coordination in preparedness and response to emergencies, as well as for its cooperation with non-state actors. Médecins Sans Frontières is registered as a non-state actor in official relations with WHO. We provided all necessary information for the due diligence process like any other non-stakeholder actors and are convinced by the value added of cooperating with a broad range of actors. MSF is committed to cooperate with WHO and its member states across disease and care services, especially for populations in fragile and conflict-affected settings. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to International Baby Food Action Network, IBFAN.
Thank you very much. IBFAN's collaboration with WHO over 47 years led to a consumer protection code that has saved millions of children's lives. So we know the importance of WHO's independence, integrity, and trustworthiness if it is to fulfill its constitutional mandate to protect the right of all people to health. WHO's constitution is a remarkable model, a core function of which is to propose conventions, agreements, and regulations. So due diligence is needed to screen multi-stakeholder collaborations, especially from health-harming corporations, entities with no democratic accountability, and whose aim is invariably to delay and undermine WHO's essential action. In a world increasingly governed by economic interests, policy setting must be free from commercial influence, so WHO's wise leadership is needed now more than ever. No single country can do what WHO does, so thank you.
Thank you. And again, I express my appreciation to the non-state actors who've participated on the way through. I'm a little bit disappointed that the Public Services International haven't been here, as of course we love all our NSAs equally, but some bring slightly more colour and presentation. So thank you everyone for your participation. I see no more requests from the floor. So I'm going to ask the Secretariat to respond to the questions that were posed. First of all, I assume that's you, Jeremy, and then the Razia, and then the DG would like to make a few comments.
Thank you so much, Chair. And at the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Catherine Loftus and the Member States to find a way forward constructively and collaboratively. In terms of the specific questions that were asked, One was on the reservation of the 5 NSAs to be recorded formally, and I've been told that the views will be recorded in the official records of the meeting. Then there was that there will be a written communication that would be coming, and for Secretariat to thoroughly discuss that with the member states, and we commit to have ongoing dialogue. And in terms of the technical collaboration, I have the ADG here sitting here, and we are open to having that dialogue. The third was on the text, which I think Chair is going to come next when you review the decision. These are the questions I picked up. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank Egypt, shukran gazilan, to you and other member states for the flexibility and understanding. And we will take your concern seriously, not just for the 5, but for the rest as well. As you know, we don't allow our norms and standards to be influenced by anyone. We always say we take sides with science. As you know, taking sides with this member state or another member state, or with this organization or that organization, is not a good idea, and I can tell you why. For instance, if you take a government, when a left is in the government, their position is different. When a right is in the government, the position is different. So if you take positions with any government, it means that you will constantly move based on who is in government. So that's why we always say we take sides with science and evidence. So I will assure you that we don't take sides with any country, this country or that country, or this organization or that organization, but with science and evidence. But we take your concern seriously, and we will always check against whether this is based on science and evidence and nothing else. So I'd like to assure you that, and we will uphold science, whatever the consequences. And as you know, we have said it many times, when we side with science, it's because it gives us to take a principled position without fear or favor. So that's why we prefer to take that position. I think I will take your message as reinforcing that, and that's what we will do. And then thank you for your comment, especially the trust in the leadership. We will live up to that expectation. And the other issue then that was raised was especially the departure or the withdrawal of some countries was related to some of our affiliation with some organizations. Of course, what I said earlier is, works for that as well. If some countries are unhappy with that, the truth is we take sides with science. So whatever, if that's the reason behind the withdrawal, then it's the wrong reason. Because, as I said, we take sides with science and not with this organization or that organization. And the other is, when we give support, especially related to some of the organizations that we have a relationship with, not only, as I said, we take our position based on norms, based on science, we also make sure that any support is provided based on demand from countries. If I tell you my own story, when I was Minister of Health, we made a systematic review, and maternal mortality was very, very high. This is in 2004, 2005, 21 years ago, 20 years ago. And the two reasons for the high maternal mortality was, one, the first one was postpartum hemorrhage. Mothers were bleeding to death. And the second reason was unsafe abortion. Of course, then follows other reasons like hypertension or complications during pregnancy and so on, during delivery. But the top two were PPH and unsafe abortion. I myself invited not only WHO, but other international organizations for help. And it's during that time, our parliament passed a bill on how to handle unsafe abortion. Because nobody wanted for our mothers to die, our sisters to die. Everybody agreed and decided to face it head on, because high maternal mortality, which was around 1,000 per 100,000 live births, is very high. Now, by the way, it's down to 195. I'm telling you my own story. So what I'm saying now is, if any country has some data like this and they need support from us, we cannot turn them down. But we don't also force countries to take our service. So any relationship, see it from that angle. Any country has sovereignty either to invite us or not invite us. So whatever relationship we have, it will not be forced on any country. It will not, I assure you. And I have done it myself. But at the same time, if there is a minister who identified the problem as I did and asked for support, WHO should be prepared to support. And I still appreciate WHO support at that time and other organizations, because you can see the result now. From close to 1,000 births per 100,000 live births death to 195. That's significant because we addressed the root cause of the problem. So when you see, I would appreciate it if you see it this way, and if some of those who withdrew because of this reason, just listen to my story. There are countries who need our support, so we need to support them. Second, our track record shows that we associate with science and evidence. So if anyone has issues, to be honest, it's the wrong reason to depart because of this. WHO actually should continue doing the same thing based on science and evidence and without fear and favor. That's the WHO you want, because it belongs to all 194 countries. And it cannot be impartial. It should be neutral and impartial. And that's why we take science as our guide. So thank you so much again for your support. We will take the issues seriously, the concerns you have, and we will continue to check if there is any problem, because we don't take your concerns also lightly. If there is anything, we will continue to check. Thank you, and Chair, back to you.
Thank you, DG. We're moving to the point now we will note the reports, and then after that we'll move to the decision text. As I see no more requests for the floor, may I take it that the board is ready to accept the recommendations of the PBAC to note the reports contained in documents EB 158/42 and EB 158/43. I see no objection. The reports are noted. Let us now consider the draft decision entitled Non-State Actors and Official Relations with WHO contained in document EB 158/43 Add 1. If the Secretariat could put up on the screen, as I said before, and I'm sure many people in the room are aware, there have been significant informal discussions and consultations with a view to try and find some form of compromise text. If we can just put that up. So the marked changes are from the version that was circulated previously. This is the same way we dealt with Rev 1, the last version that you have seen. I could ask the others to explain, but essentially the chapeau to the operative provisions adds that language at the end. So the proposal that was put forward by Norway, this is your proposal, adds the words, so it says, the Executive Board, having considered the report on engagement with non-state actors in official relations with WHO, and taking note of the reservations expressed by some EB members, acknowledging that member states have full sovereign rights over which non-state actors operate within their national territories, and with full consideration and respect to every member state's overall national context. And I understand that Egypt have also proposed additional text beyond that, which was consistent with value. I might ask you to, I'll ask Egypt just to have the call so we have the information in front of us. Egypt?
Well, thank you very much, Chair, and definitely thanks for the Honorable Dr. Tedros, Director General of the WHO, for the highlighting the importance of science as a fundamental aspect, that it's like the philosophy of the WHO and the pathway that we all respect and try to follow strictly. And again, thanks for his assurance about he would respect fully the request coming from our side. And again, I assure you, Your Excellency, that we will not depart. We, at least as Egypt, we will not depart. We'll be there. We'll follow, inshallah, and put all our efforts to sustain the multilateralism and the support of the WHO. Having said that, we previously agreed, Chair, on the chapeau of the decision, point conclude with the language, full consideration and respect to every member state's principles and values instead of context. We consider this distinction to be very considerable importance, and the reference to principle and values reflects clearly and more accurately the very basis and rationale for our reservation. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My intention here is to open the floor for discussion in the first instance by EB members on this text. Obviously, one of the things I will try to form a judgment about is whether we have a prospect of reaching consensus. But in the first instance, we should try and reach consensus. If that is not possible, we will consider alternate ways of resolving this issue. Just for the benefit of other EB members who may have the decision or not in front of them, the rest of the operative provisions, A says, to admit the World Federation of Sporting Goods Industry, to discontinue relations with two bodies, and the issue that was raised in PBAC was 2, which is effectively noting the continued collaboration with 65 non-state actors and continuing that contribution. And so the compromise that was sought by Egypt was to put the qualification up to ensure that item 2 was read in the context of that qualification. So with that, I open to members of the Executive Board for views on the acceptability of this amended or potentially amended decision. I open it to members of the Executive Board. The floor is open. I give the floor to Norway, followed by the Central African Republic.
Thank you, Chair. As I've told before, I really tried to find consensus, and I know that some member states can't live with the suggestion that's on the table now, so I will have another suggestion instead of national context, and to say national context and legislation, or something like that. Thank you.
I give the floor to the Central African Republic.
Merci, Monsieur le...
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Norway for this proposal. My country agrees with the initial wording. However, now we saw efforts to refine the language, and this is welcome. The context and legislation should capture the idea of the principles and values. Legislation generally is based on principles. These are admitted also based on values.
Mais je voudrais, Monsieur le Président, si
But if I may, sir, I would like to underscore respect for the sovereignty of countries, because it's true that not every country has the same environment, but in a country such as my own, which was in conflict and is emerging from conflict, we have seen a lot of excesses from non-governmental partners. And sometimes we have the impression that they are competing with the government, and that is where I disagree with the DG. WHO is an organization of member states. The work of WHO is to ensure that there are results in the countries in the context of programs implemented by the governments. Non-state actors are auxiliary. They play a supporting role to the government to help resolve their issues. And so they shouldn't be in contradiction to what governments are doing. So this must be, of course, evidence science-based, but also guided by ethics. It must be guided by science and ethics. Now, sometimes we see health being used for geopolitical ends, and everyone knows this. So that is also what this is about here. Thank you for the understanding shown, but I do think we have to bear in mind this context. Thank you.
Central African Republic, I'm at the point of a meeting where I'm trying to work out which text is acceptable. I just want to, you made comment about sovereign rights, but you're not suggesting we change that wording. Is that wording acceptable to you?
The microphone was not on. This seems more objective. Legislation captures the values of a country. When we talk about values, Norway's proposal is to show the context and legislation, and that is okay with me.
Question has been, this is partly, and maybe the Secretariat just need to be a bit careful about highlighting things until we kind of ask you to. You have no problem with sovereign rights in that middle of that para. You prefer context and legislation, but you don't want to change sovereign rights.
I'm not a legal expert, but I do believe that legislation is at the very heart of this. The legal text, these capture the rights, the laws recognized in a country.
That's very, very helpful. And I just would encourage other speakers, and I think that was a very helpful intervention. I also note, not just because we're on the second to last item, correctly, we're not enforcing the time limit here because I don't think anyone's filibustering here. If people need some time to explain the change they would like and the rationale for that, I think we need to take that time. I'm now going to go to Spain and then Egypt.
Thank you, sir. I will be brief in conveying our preferences. My delegation's preference is to keep the text in its original version. It is our understanding that if that's not possible, we need a consensual decision. And it is our understanding that delegations have been working to seek closer wording. And the initial wording by Norway does not fully meet our satisfaction. There's a whole series of caveats. It talks about state sovereignty, reservations by members of the board, national context. This is a whole series of caveats that seem to show a lack of confidence here. And that is what we need to preserve, this confidence. In any event, the wording proposed by Norway, although we don't support it fully, we can accept this in the spirit of consensus. And adding anything further waters down the text, and this would lead to a result that would not be acceptable. Our preference is the original version, as was phrased by Norway. However, we can accept this as long as it is a consensus agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Egypt.
I think Brazil comes first.
No.
Okay.
Brazil is not an executive board member.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And again, we did not put such a phrasing. We showed firstly the flexibility and accommodation and indulgence, and to pass move forward in that, and not to just to stand in this issue. And I wish to hear a second round of applause for Your Excellency within a few minutes. And if you allow me, Chair, to have a 5-minute consultation, although we were very happy with this new text, but let us consult with the OIC and member states of EMRO. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to do that. You take 5 minutes to consult. That would be fantastic. We'll suspend the session until you return. Thank you. If members could resume their seats. If people can resume their seats, please. We're almost there, I think. We have had a short suspension. I reopen the session to allow some informal consultations. I think the most practical thing to do is give Egypt the floor, so I will give Egypt the floor.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Chair, for giving us more than 5 minutes for consultation. And after passing the consultation process with the esteemed colleagues from different member states, again, I reiterate our appreciation and gratitude for His Excellency Madame Loftus for the wisdom and the flexibility and patience. And based on the consultations, we could accept the adding context and legislations. That phrase could be accepted from our side. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for that flexibility. What I will do as a matter of formality, first, I think all executive board members, I don't see anyone taking the call. I still have to give the opportunity for non-EB members to make a comment, but I do note that we're at a point where trying to resolve a text of which looks like we may be having a consensus, and that's a consensus that must be established among the executive board members. But as a matter of process, I will see if any member state who's not a member of the executive board would like to take the floor. I see no one taking the floor. I thank you for your cooperation. Given that, I would move that, or I ask the board, is it ready to adopt the draft decision provided in document EB 158/43 add 1 as amended and displayed on the screen? Is there any member state would like to take the floor? I see no objection. The decision is therefore adopted. Right. This concludes the board's consideration of item 28.6. There is one last item to deal with before we move to the closing of the meeting, and that is I must return to item 31. Item 31, as you will recall, was the item that dealt with the date of the 79th World Health Assembly. I understand that there have been some consultations, and I have had some engagement with those consultations. I intend to put to the Executive Board that the Executive Board decided that the 79th World Health Assembly should be held in Geneva, opening on Monday the 18th of May 2026, and should close no later than Saturday the 23rd of May 2026. The Executive Board of the World Health Organisation would meet on the 25th and the 26th of May 2026. So I intend to put that for approval of the board, but I understand there may be some delegations wish to take the floor to comment, and that is perfectly acceptable before I move it. So I recognise Nepal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the dates of the Assembly, we got some time during the intervening period to better understand why postponement of a date to the subsequent week will not be a workable option for many delegations here, and we fully respect those positions. We also thank the delegations for understanding our concerns regarding the logistics, especially given the constraints faced by smaller delegations if the committee proceedings are spread out in 2 different venues. On the proposed dates, Nepal is happy to proceed with the consensus. However, for the logistical reasons that my delegation flagged up earlier, we propose the following language be included in the summary of the meeting. And I read, considering the difficulties that the resource-constrained delegations may face, the delegation of Nepal requested the Secretariat to plan in such a way that substantive proceedings of the Assembly are held in a single venue, or that suitable logistical arrangements are made to enable the participation of all delegations. For the ease of editing, we have shared this language also with the Secretariat. Our insertion is meant for the narrative part and not to alter the decision point. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nepal, and thank you for that accommodation. That's very much appreciated. Is there any other delegation who wishes to take the floor? Given that, I will just read it again, that the Executive Board, the decision that we are adopting is the Executive Board decided that the 79th World Health Assembly should be held in Geneva, opening on Monday, 18th of May 2026 and should close no later than Saturday, 23 May 2026, and that the Executive Board would be held on the 25th and the 26th of May 2026. Does anyone have any objections to that decision? I see no objection, therefore that is decided. I now close item 31 and I move to the final item, which is item 35, the closure of the meeting. Distinguished members of the Board and delegates, we now have come to the end of the 158th session of the Executive Board. Before closing the meeting, I would like to invite the Director-General to say a few words. Dr. Tedros, you have the floor.
Chair, Secretary Blair Comley, our Vice Chairs, Honourable Ministers, Ambassadors, Heads of Delegation, members of the Executive Board, dear colleagues and friends. Chair Comley, thank you for your leadership this week and for managing such a full agenda ahead of schedule and giving a day actually free. Thank you to all member states for your engagement, which reflects the value you place on WHO and its work. From NCDs and mental health to TB, rare diseases, neglected tropical diseases, AMR, UHC, polio, emergencies, and more. You have highlighted some of the many issues that transcend national borders and that require a coordinated international response. Thank you also for the attention you have given to governance reforms. As I said at the beginning of the week, a more efficient and effective WHO means reform to both the Secretariat and the governance that Member States provide. And thank you again to Secretary Blair. Thank you for the guidance you have given, the consensus you have forged, and the commitment you have demonstrated to WHO. Your Secretariat remains fully committed to following your guidance and supporting all Member States. Our prioritization and realignment has helped to give us clarity about where WHO has the greatest comparative advantage and adds the greatest value. We are now moving forward as a leaner Secretariat focused on leveraging that comparative advantage and delivering that value with clarity of our future. The prioritization and realignment process, as you know, has not been easy. It has affected all of us, and I wish to thank once again the members of staff we could not keep for their dedication and professionalism. I also thank all staff who are still with us for their continuing commitment. We remain committed to the principles we applied through the process: fairness, transparency, and humanity. We also thank the Board for the mandate you have given us to move ahead with convening discussions about the global health architecture or ecosystem. We look forward to continuing the discussions with Member States and partners about how to ensure that collectively we avoid overlaps and duplication and deliver results for the countries and people we serve. Chair, let me finish with a quote from a famous compatriot of yours, Professor Fred Hollows. I also know him personally, a great Australian. For those who don't know Professor Hollows, he was an ophthalmologist who did extensive work helping people with trachoma and other eye conditions in indigenous communities in Australia, as well as in Nepal, Eritrea, and Vietnam. Today, his foundation continues his work in many countries around the world. Fred said once, "We discover our own humanity when we help others." I repeat, we discover our own humanity when we help others. That's why we're here, to help humanity, to help our sisters and brothers around the world who face threats to their health of all kinds. That's the mission to which I and WHO staff around the world remain committed. The highest attainable standard of health for all people. Thank you for your continuing commitment to that mission, a blessed mission, and also your trust in WHO and your confidence, and I have seen it during this meeting. And thank you so much for your continued support, and I wish you a safe journey home, and thank you. Thank you, Chair, and back to you.
Thank you very much, DG. I'll make some comments. A number of people have said to me that given the way I've chaired the meeting, someone will put the clock on and the bell will go red pretty quickly, and that's fair enough. The first thing I did want to comment, I think the spirit of the meeting has been fantastic. I think both inside and outside this room, where there's been informal consultations, both in slightly more formal settings in rooms, but also in delegations working together to find a constructive way forward. An Egyptian colleague noted that we get a third clap if we got the agreement on the last one. We got through, today, a discussion of the member state membership, governance reform, and the FENSA issue, which all of us have known from the start of the week were going to be some of the more challenging issues to deal with, and we got through them in a spirit of goodwill and cooperation. When I reflect on the week, we had a lot to do at the start of the week, following on from PBAC, with the financial and budget pressures that are pushed on the organisation. This is a constant reminder of what the organisation is facing. And part of that related to governance, which is to say we have to govern ourselves better, make better choices and live within those means. So I was very pleased to see the governance reforms accepted today. We'll have 2 years of pilots. I'm sure we'll learn things in those pilots. We'll modify some things, but hopefully it improves the WHO from the start and continues to get better. We also had many conversations about the staff of the WHO, the tremendous work they continue to do. They do it under difficult circumstances. They have had a trying time at both a professional and personal level. Some are no longer with the organisation, but the ones here clearly show the same dedication and commitment that they always do. I'd particularly like to call out at this point the translators. A number of times during the meeting, you may have observed that the speaking speed was challenging as people were trying to reconcile tight time limits with the need to get across critical points that no doubt were negotiated down to the final word many times before you arrived in Geneva, and you would have had to disappoint someone in your capital if you didn't get those words out. I think the other thing to reflect about this meeting, we do spend a fair bit of time on the things that are contentious. But when we look at the report of the activity of the World Health Organization, whether it's on communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, health emergencies, AMR, all of those things that are critical for the world, you can't help but understand the impact of the WHO. And I'd particularly like to call out Dr. Tedros's comments in his opening report, where he went through an amazing number of significant achievements in public health across the world, including the fact that life expectancy has increased by 10 years over a 30-year period, which is quite remarkable. We did dwell on the membership issue this morning. We've decided to recommend to the World Health Assembly to consider the withdrawal of Argentina. The DG's report canvassed complex issues and raised several questions. Many of these complexities and questions were also reflected in executive board discussions. It's fair to acknowledge the difficulty of the board's task in considering these issues, and I was really pleased with the way that conversation was had in a very constructive and civil way. While the board reached an outcome, there is some uncertainty remains. This was expressed in the interventions of board members and the broader membership, and several countries reserved their positions. These countries and others expressed their reservation, raised questions in their interventions. This matter will be important for the World Health Assembly to further consider, including as it is a matter on which I expect the broader membership will have views and want the opportunity to engage. The intersessional period between the Executive Board and the Assembly will be an opportunity to consider what further information could be useful for the Assembly to have before it makes the decision. Finally, I want to thank a number of groups of people. The first is I would like to thank the Bureau. When my deputy suggested to me that we might be Executive Board Chair, he outlined how much work was involved. He lied. Well, maybe not lied. He may not have fully appreciated the impact. The Bureau has met 6 or 7 times since the last EB on issues mainly to do with governments, but also the agenda for this board and issues to do with membership. And I really thank genuinely my vice chairs and the rapporteur who've done a fantastic work bringing the perspective of regions to the Bureau to ensure that we can make this meeting as good as possible. The second thing is I'd like to thank you, the EB members, and I'd particularly like to acknowledge that you dedicated additional time, many of you, to the informal meeting on Sunday, which I think actually helped us quite a lot in the deliberations this week. My sole goal at that informal was that not that we were negotiating positions, that we could improve a common understanding of some of the key issues, which would then allow us to deal with them better, and I think that was very successful in an informal setting. Thirdly, all the member states. There have been some fantastic contributions from other member states, not members of the board, and this is very much a member state-led organisation. I'd also like to thank the Secretariat, who do unceasing work preparing me for the day, but you can just imagine how much work happens to prepare the papers for this meeting. And there's also, that's from the staff preparing papers, but I'd also like to call out all the staff who can handle logistics, make this smooth, and do the things that we probably never observe. I'm a bit of a sports fan, and things like logistics, it's like a good umpire. If you don't notice them, they're probably doing a really good job, and they did a really good job. And finally, I'd like to call out our non-state actors who engaged through the meeting. Many of their interventions gave us food for thought, and certainly will build into our deliberations both today, but in future meetings as we try and make better policy with the non-state actors, not just delivering it to them. So, on closing of this, I thought I would say, Dr. Tedros, you do a passable impersonation of an Australian when you say, "G'day, mate."
G'day, mate.
But now it's "Good night, mate."
Good night, mate.
I formally declare the 158th session of the Executive Board closed.
So no late night
No.
ahead of schedule.